Welcome to the Wellbeing Whizz Omnicast, episode number 23, and I've got a fabulous guest for you today. Her name is Emily Hughes. She's the founder of the Parent Guide to GCSE and also the writer of the acclaimed book, The GCSE Survival Guide for Parents. Hi, Emily, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming on during what is the school holidays, which is quite a special time for us all.
Indeed.
It just doesn't feel like we've actually had school starting. They've been back for like a week and now they're sort of back off again.
Yeah, it's just messed with all of my internal systems. I don't know what day it is.
I'm sure we'll get onto education sooner or later. So tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us what you do, and then we can get into the podcast for real.
I was a teacher for 15 years and decided that my sanity was more important than my salary, and I needed to find something else to do. And had this epiphany when a parent on a Facebook group, so it was our daughter was in, I think, year 5 at the time, our youngest, and the parent on the Facebook group put in this post, help, she's got this maths homework and I don't understand it. What do I even do? It's bar modeling. It's something we never did at school. It's a new thing. And so she was just lost. And I suddenly went, ding, I can do this. No one's helping parents. Why is no one helping parents? Like, we had teenagers going through their GCSEs at the time. And my husband's a teacher too, or was a teacher too. And so we know how to help students. We've been doing it forever. And we realized that there's this whole industry around supporting students, revision guides, tutors, everything. There's nothing to support you as a parent when all you're doing for 2 straight years is worrying about, are they doing the right things? Am I nagging them enough? Am I nagging them too much? And so the Parent Guide to GCSE was born and then expanded. We've got the Parent Guide to post-16 now. And it's just about supporting parents through all of the dramas that occur. It's making sure that they know exactly what to expect, when to expect it, and how to handle it, and making sure that they're not doing it alone. So we've built up this amazing community of parents who are all in the same boat and all out to support each other. And it's just been fabulous.
Awesome, and it's good timing because my son's just picked his options for next year, so I couldn't have timed this conversation any better. So, I mean, that sounds. You're right. The parents. I mean, I know I've looked at homework and gone, we didn't do it this way, and yes, I can get the answer, but that'll be cheating. So I won't be helping you much by showing you what you're supposed to be doing, because I'll get the answer my way with my abacus and looking at the sun and various things from back when I was little, and it's not going to help him. Yeah, it's brilliant. And I thought it was a great thing to have you on because I think your story is awesome as well. So we'll get into that in a minute as well. So you know what I do. I'm an anxiety coach. I help people learn to manage their anxiety. Is it something that's affected you in the past? By the sound of it, it is.
It is, yeah. So as a teacher, I had a couple of bad bosses in a row, and it got to the point where I was signed off with depression. Spent a lot of time sat on the sofa doing very little for a few months, just couldn't function. And at the point where I was coming back out of it, and whether that was to do with coming out of depression or whether it was to do with side effects of the antidepressants, I don't know, but I got quite anxious about a lot of things, particularly being out in public. And for me, that was tied to the fact that when you're signed off as a teacher, you're not, somebody else is having to plan your lessons and do your marking and look after your kids. So you feel like you're putting on your whole team and you're letting them down and you're letting your students down. And there's all of that kind of mental pressure
almost,
on your shoulders. And so being out and about, I would be imagining these, 1,000-odd people from my school seeing me out going, well, hang on a minute, if you can go out to Tesco's to buy a loaf of bread, why can't you be in a classroom teaching my child? And I knew that wasn't a real thing. A, people weren't judging, and B, that wasn't a realistic comparison, because whilst I could cope with going to Tesco's and getting a loaf of bread, I wouldn't have survived in the classroom. I was at the point where
all together, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd kind of huddled myself up almost as close to being in a ball as I could while still walking, head down. And I'd literally in my head be going, you can do this. It's going to be okay. We're just going to go to the bread aisle. We're just going to pick up some bread. Nobody's looking at you. It's going to be fine. We're going to be out of here really soon. And I'd coach myself through the whole process because it just felt so utterly terrifying. And I mean, now crowds with the whole everything that's going on, I get a little hint of that as well. When back in the early days, before everything got locked down, but we could kind of see it coming, and I was out going, oh, this is a lot of people, I don't like it.
Yeah,
but
it's
But
all,
yeah,
and it was one of my main things. That supermarkets were my kryptonite for a while. I just couldn't. I mean, long story short, I once ended up building a toilet roll fort in the supermarket and saying I was going to live in there forever. I was just hiding in that. I couldn't deal. And yeah, I think it is. There's something about the lighting in supermarkets. It all makes me feel very dizzy.
And it's very, because it's so bright, there's nowhere to hide, which might explain the fort. And I love that. I'm now imagining doing that.
I had a lovely little slot to look out of. I was like, grand.
Amazing. But yeah, just like in the clothes aisles as well, you could kind of get inside there. I could see that happening too.
Yeah, nice.
But there's nowhere to hide otherwise. It's very, this is me, and I can see. I
never thought of it like that. Yeah, you're right. People could someone could come around an aisle because they could be in the next aisle and you wouldn't know they were there. So I'm already getting anxious about it now. Thanks.
The possibility that you bump into someone who you then have to talk to, because talking to people at that point was out of the question. I'm very lucky that my husband was really understanding, and I was capable of articulating just, I love you. It's just that I actually can't hold a conversation right now. I am paying attention. I just can't engage in the way that I would normally.
Yeah, because not being able to articulate it to your loved ones is probably one of the most difficult things. You're lucky to be able to do that, actually.
Yeah, I know. I really am. My ex-husband suffered from depression, and as a person who'd not had it at that point, I totally didn't get it. It's like, you've already rung in sick. Why are you still in bed? Like, get up and enjoy your day. I get that you can't face work. Just, go watch some TV, do something
fun.
Yeah. It's not how that works.
So was it just the fear of going out, or did you have any physical symptoms that went with it? Because I was dizzy and sick and all that kind of stuff. Or
not so much, although I could feel my heart racing, and I was tense the whole time. But that was about it. It didn't get any worse than that, thankfully. But it took a while for it to go away.
Fainting was my big thing. I was always worried of fainting, because I've never fainted before in my life, never done it. So the fear of it, not knowing what it is, and also being 6'4" is an awful long way to the ground from my head.
You could take out a lot of people.
I ended up sort of crawling everywhere. It's sitting down a lot. So it was I was this weird kind of hunched over crawling creature for many years. But yeah, I totally, the supermarket thing and the crowds, and it's that, and it's worse when you're I say the word public figure, but when you're a teacher and people know your face and your name, and they if you're in a full body cast in a wheelchair because you've fallen down a hill, they'd be perfectly happy with you in Tesco's. Whereas because it's mental and they can't see an outward sign of it, all of a sudden you're allowed to judge, in inverted commas.
Yeah,
that's a weird one. And so what sort of, did you do anything to sort of help you out of that? Did you do anything that anything in particular that stopped it?
I found it quite helpful, because I found I was walking around with my fists clenched, and I was getting nail marks, because I was just clenched the whole time. I found it was helpful to have something to fiddle with. So for me, it was a hair bobble. I went into a difficult meeting about when the process of going back to work and things, and I managed to snap the hair bobble in half in about 15 seconds, but it was still having something in my hands that helped.
Wow.
That I don't know why, that was what made the difference for me. But yeah, hair bobble, and then I just have a stash on my arm ready to just for the next one.
I couldn't pull that one off, unfortunately. I'd look weird. The lack of hair would give it away, I think. So why have you got a hair bubble? No reason. Yeah, I mean, that's it. And what would you say was the hardest part of it? What was the apart from going out, maybe that might be it, actually?
It was the not being able to explain it clearly to other people. So with my husband, with the kids, them to not be able to sufficiently explain what was going on inside my head and why it was freaking me out to just go out for a walk, because we were going to go to the park and there were going to be people there. Just not being able to express quite how terrifying that was. That I think was the worst bit.
It is. It's that not being able to, if you've never felt it or never experienced it. For example, my wife's the most chilled out Fonzie on the planet. Nothing bothers her at all. And yeah, she gets upset now and again, but she's kind of all nicely in that lane where it's not too extreme either way. And to explain to her that I didn't want to go around to see her family, not because I didn't like them, because I enjoyed spending time with them, but it was just they might look at me and then I'd start thinking, and it's being able to verbalize I don't hate to use the word crazy thoughts, but the rushing thoughts, the out of control what ifs, you can't verbalize this out to someone who've never had them. And
absolutely. And with the depression stuff, it was the best analogy I found is it's like there's an old Eels song, Novocaine for the Soul.
love
like,
it.
you know, when you go to the dentist and they numb you and you can't feel anything. Like you could bite your tongue clean off and you wouldn't notice because it's just completely numb. It's like that for your emotions. When you have depression, you can't, for me at least, I couldn't feel anything. I knew I should, and I was capable of putting on a show to some extent when I needed to. So if I had to pretend to be normal and pretend that I was feeling things, I knew what I should do. But that it would be the same situation, like going over and seeing people. I knew I'd have to put on a show for that whole time period, and it was exhausting. And
it is.
Again,
I'd have to go the other way. I'd go the other way. I'd be very outlandish and loud and jokey and put this kind of almost, I mean, I'm a fairly sociable character as it goes anyway, but I'd kind of then 10x it and make this kind of like, whoa, big character. But I'd keep talking because I think, well, if I keep talking, they'll forget the last thing I said and the last thing I said, and I just keep kind of going. And in the end, it's so tiring, like keeping up this pretense that's not even you when you feel so awful. It's like, yeah, I mean, I always describe it as like running a marathon in your head every single day, and you're just exhausted of kind of trying to be normal. And this is why I do what I do, because I just want other people to know that there's people out there who know how it feels. Because I think when you're in it, you feel like no one else has had it before like this. No one else has experienced it like this before, no matter how much they tell you they have. And I think that's it. I think that it's a big key thing is learning to, I want to make a film one day of what it sounded like in my head. I think it would be a fun project. I'm not sure I've got enough voices or enough channels on the mixer to make it, but I'll certainly give it a go. So now you've sort of finally got it under control. Is there something sort of that you did in particular to get it under control, or was it just like a gradual process?
It was just a gradual process. It was that kind of gradually getting back to normal. I think we're all experiencing it to some extent with the pandemic, particularly. I mean, we've been shielding because Paul's on immunosuppressants, my husband. So we've been shielding from the beginning. We've been little hermits in our house. And so going out and doing anything feels weird. We've not been out and done anything. We've had the shopping delivered, like even our daughter being back at school feels weird. It feels risky still. I know that things are getting better and we're starting to get to the point where we can go and see people and sit in the garden and have a cup of tea, but it's that slightly what if terrifying thing, that feeling of, hang on a minute, I'm not sure it's safe yet, I'm not sure I can cope with this yet, I'm not sure this feels comfortable yet. That I think was the same process that I went through going out of that. Like every time I went out, it got that little bit easier. Every time I spoke to someone, a little bit easier, until suddenly I realized I was kind of back to normal and I'd not seen it happening. Very much
sort of come out of it sort of without any particular intervention as such, more kind of just immersion therapy, almost like slow burn return to normal, a bit like we're going to have to do, like you say, over the next few weeks. And that's funny, I've had a lot of clients contact me, ex-clients who can manage their anxiety brilliantly now and they're perfectly fine, but like, can we have a few sessions just getting back to normal sessions? Like, and I'm like, yeah, why not? You know, and it is those what ifs that used to rule my life. People are having those what ifs about meeting granny in the garden for a cup of tea. Should be never having things about that. Should be looking forward to it. But it's been drummed into us for a year. We've been in that state. And I said, a friend of mine, he went into his caravan because he's I can't remember, can never pronounce it. Whatever you said before. He's the same. He had to live in his caravan for the first 2 or 3 months of February because his kids were still at school and he was terrified of catching it. And hopefully when he gets the jab and stuff, will be I think he's had one and he's about to have his second. He'll be like, but like you say, it's still in the back of the mind and you'll never get rid of it. I don't think it's gonna be hard to get rid of.
Yeah, it's going to take a while.
It's a weird old world at the moment. Anyway, moving on from sad things like that, let's see what. So how does your program, your process, or what you do, how does it help parents who obviously are anxious and stressed about their kids' exams? What's your sort of secret sauce, if you like? I like that phrase.
I think we have what we call the B2 stealth system for getting information into your teenagers. So basically, very much like the plane, the B2 stealth plane is designed to get small but very important packages to exactly the right place at exactly the right time for maximum impact. We help you do that with getting information to your child without the defenses going up and the eye rolling mechanisms kicking in.
I need to read this book.
I don't think that made it into the book, to be fair.
Oh no! Okay, great. Fill me in.
But yeah, but the idea is that as teenagers, we're pre-programmed to think our parents are wrong and not want to listen to them. It's how it works. My mum told me that I should read the Harry Potter books because I would love the Harry Potter books. So I did not read the Harry Potter books on principle for several years, just because I didn't want it to be right. And I was an adult by then. That's what we're working with. So having
Can I put my hand up and say I haven't read them either?
Oh no, I have now. You should. They're fabulous. Okay. But
you're not my mum, so I'll try it.
But it's having someone else to blame for the advice that you're giving. You know, if your mum says to you as a teenager, you should be using mind maps for your revision because they're so much better than sitting and reading your notes, you're going to go, yeah, right. What do you know? It's been forever since you did your exams and they were totally different by then. Like, but out of my life, you get all of that, the eye rolling. The
you live in my house. I've had this conversation before.
Whereas members get this like weekly bite-sized chunks via email. So it's a little email or a little video from me saying, here's why using mind maps is such a powerful tool and why it will make your life easier and why it will mean you have to do less studying because it's much more effective than just sitting and reading your notes, and it's much less boring than sitting and reading your notes. At which point, if you sit and watch that with your child, you're both getting the same advice, which means you're both on the same team fighting the same battle, and you're their coach rather than their drill sergeant. And what we say, I mean, the biggest part of our secret sauce is that knowledge beats nagging every single time.
Knowledge beats nagging. I love that.
Thank you. But yeah, it's that having easy access to all the things you need in one place, because there's 15,000 different websites going, this is the exact revision guide that you need to make a difference to this particular thing, and I will teach you these aspects of maths, and they're all separate. And having one place to go and one person to ask, one source of advice that says, you know, as a parent, here's what you need to know right now. Here's a really easy way for them to make a revision plan in like 10 minutes with a couple of different clicks that saves you 3 days worth of scrubbing glitter out of the carpet and buying 47 different colored highlighters, right?
Yeah.
That one place, that one simple shop where you can get the reassurance that, you know what, this is totally normal. They will grow out of it. You're doing all the right things as a parent. You're going to be fine. That, I think, is our secret sauce, that one-stop shop of someone who gets it. Because we've both been there as teachers, but we've both been there as parents. Our twins are now off at uni, but we did twins, chalk and cheese twins as well, GCSE and then A-levels. A-levels being like A-level results were during the pandemic. So they were that year group that got completely screwed over by the algorithm. You know, we've been there, we've done it. We're not going to sit there on our high horse and go, you should absolutely be getting your child to do 4 hours of revision every single evening, because that's stupid and completely unmanageable. And will drive you all insane. So we're all about, you know, work smarter, not harder. And it's that reassurance for parents that makes the difference.
And you're kind of getting the child buy-in via the videos. Like this, that's it. If you're, but like you say, if you're both working together on the same team and you're not knowledge over nagging, that's just brilliant. And it's like, yeah, like you say, I find myself going, have you done your homework? And like you said, the drill sergeant role is mine, because it has to be, otherwise it doesn't get done. And it kind of pits you against them from day one. You're right. And you don't want that during the most important time of their lives when they're doing exams.
Totally. One of the things that we do quite early on is we have what we call either the goal setting masterclass or the motivation masterclass, because it does the same thing. And we get them to go, right, 10 years in the future, where do you think you want to be living? We get them to do some house shopping and figure out roughly what would that be in monthly rent, which then leads them to what would your salary have to be to live there. So you pick your dream house. Where would I be happy in 10 years? So what salary do I need? Well, what jobs would get me that salary? But also, if I won a competition and I got that amount every single year for the rest of my life, never have to work again, what would I do with my time? Like, how would I chill out? What would I choose to do that I love doing? How can I get someone to pay me to do that so that it's not a job because I love it, so it doesn't really feel like work? If they've got that that big why, that big picture, that's something they can work towards. Do you know what? That would be amazing. If I could do that and I could live there, that would be awesome. That's half your nagging dealt with. That's
Yeah,
your drill.
because they've got a goal to hit, and and also, of course, you're doing what Deepak Chopra says, you're activating the creative brain rather than the anxious brain. So all this anxiety about exams is now becoming sort of, oh, my fancy house and my car. I mean, I know my son would want 10 rooms full of Fortnite computers and all his mates living there with him, but whatever, you know, let go on it. Why not? But yeah, you're activating that creative side of the brain rather than the anxious side of the brain to get them work. You know, it's like you guys know what you're on about. We try. So is there one sort of common myth about what you do or about the GCSEs or whatever that you'd like to sort of dispel right here, right now?
I think it's that you need to be a drill sergeant. I think parents feel like their role in this is to nag and make sure that they're doing the right things. The trouble with that is if you don't know what the right things are, you can't help. So we had one who liked to read his notes. He liked to read his notes a lot. He also liked to read random books on his Kindle until he heard us coming up the stairs and then hide it in the drawer and pretend he was reading his notes. But it was so ineffective because rereading your notes is just, you're basically kind of memorizing it, and you get recognition. So you see something in your notes and you think, well, I know that, I've learned that, because you recognize it from your notes. But if you're not doing something with the information, it's not building those neural pathways, it's not making all those links, it's not getting deeper into your long-term memory. And so if your child is sitting and reading through their notes, it looks like they're working really hard. It looks like, I've done my job as a parent, excellent. They're in their room, they're revising, this is all amazing. But actually, they could be doing much more in much less time, which means they're less stressed, they get a bit of a life, you nag less. So drill sergeant is not the approach. It's knowledge over nagging. It's, if you know the ways to help them and to coach them and to nudge them in the right direction, then it makes it all so much less stressful for all of you.
Brilliant. I like that. And I think also, even if people are listening to this or watching this that don't have children at GCSE age, it's perfect if you're having to learn something new yourself. Or, I mean, rereading your notes, everyone thinks that's definitely the way to learn, like 100%. Like, that's the way we were taught to learn way back when. I mean, me way back when, you less so. But it's like, make notes, read them. Even at uni, that's exactly what I did, was make notes and read them again. And actually, you're not using the information like you say. You're just like, you're recognizing it, and then you write an essay, all I know about this. You don't write an essay arguing the point, actually answering the question, read the question, things like that, that even now, I have learned something Fridays, every Friday, and I do courses on a Friday. The quality of work I'm producing now because I'm reading the question compared to when I should have produced quality work back in the day, it's frightening. And it is. It's like I used to write essays, all I know about this topic, because that's all I'd learned. And you're right. It's taking the information and using it rather than
processing it. Yeah.
Just rereading it. Brill. I love that. Sorry, you get me on education, I get excited. But that's like learning. It's one of my big things. So if you had to name sort of 3 people who have sort of got you to where you are today and inspired you or created your career or however you want to say, who would they be? I always like this bit.
I think early doors, it would have been my teacher. I think I had various amazing teachers, but one particularly, Mrs. Goldsmith. She was my dance teacher, and I always knew I wanted to teach. It was either that or singing in the West End. Sadly, did not work out, but hey, it's a story for another day.
Still time. There's still time.
Maybe. Yeah. So she let me. She recognized that kind of that desire in me to teach, that ability to do that stuff. And as a sixth former, I had free periods, which we now much prefer people refer to as study periods.
Oh yes, free periods.
2 of those a week. I used to go into her class when she was teaching year 8 and then year 9, and TA for it, be a teaching assistant, and I loved it. And that experience, I mean, the fact that one day she went off on a course and she'd told me in advance she was going to do this and let me plan the lesson and teach the lesson, so that the cover teacher came in and was like, yes, I don't have to do anything, I'm going to sit in the corner, I'm going to get on with my marking. Excellent. Because everyone hates covering dance lessons if they're not a dance teacher.
It must be tricky if you're like, I don't know, a maths teacher or whatever.
Well, yeah, in theory. So yeah, that experience, I think, was what got me into Cambridge. Like, my grades would have been okay-ish, like ish. I mean, for Cambridge standards, not so much. I think it was my interview that did the trick, and all of those things that I could put on my personal statement. This is the experience I've had. I've actually done some teaching assistant work. I have taken charge of classes. Let me in onto this maths with education degree where I'm going to end up with a teaching qualification. And so her believing in me and giving me that opportunity, you know, there were summer schools that I helped with and all sorts. That made a massive difference to getting me started on my passion for teaching originally. And then as I was then moving back out of teaching 15 years later, I think firstly it would have been my dad. He is an entrepreneur. He started out as a design engineer and ended up running his own firm. He then invented the G7 Capo, which for any guitarists out there is like,
no.
Yeah, that's my dad.
Get out of town. That's so cool. Oh, well, big one of those for your dad, because it's very cool.
See, I'm not exaggerating. It really is the Ferrari of capos. Like Eric Clapton's used one and it made his
totally is. It's like the one that, you know, and I'm adverse to capos. The lads in the band will tell you, but I'd use one.
Nice. Well, I will pass that along. He'll be very pleased.
I am like Mr. Everyone else in the band will use one, and they're all going about it. My friend Kev's like the biggest fan of capos ever, and I'm always teasing him, going, no, I'm not have one of them. But the one I've got is a G7. So there you go.
Nice. Well, see,
it's even converted me. Oh, that's a great. I tell you what, that's an awesome fact. I'm well impressed. But carry on.
Oh, yeah. Because he built the business, and I'd kind of seen him do that. He could see an alternative path, and he and my mum, when they knew I wanted to leave teaching, cut out an article about a woman who was running a Fulfilled by Amazon business. So she'd got, I think it was multivitamins or something, and so she'd do a bit of advertising and she'd ship them off to the warehouse, and she was making bajillions of pounds. And my brain went, ooh, I could do something with that, because I designed some classroom posters as a teacher that then other people had come in and go, oh, I love that. Can I have a copy? So I started selling those on Amazon. And that was my first, like, actually, I could move out of teaching. There is other stuff that I could do. That opened up this whole world of possibilities. And he's just been a really good sounding board through all of the journey of setting up my own business. And that, I think, seeing that he'd done it, that's been really inspirational, really helpful.
And really done it as well. I mean, crikey, that's a very, very well-known business. Well, to me, being a guitarist, obviously. But.
Well, yeah. So and the fact that he does it in quite a chilled out way, like you might think it's a gigantic, enormous business thing, and it is, because it kind of spreads out everywhere. But he pretty much just runs it from his little office at home with a couple of people.
Wow.
He's designed it so that he can be quite laid back when he needs to, and when he gets a sudden burst of inspiration in the middle of the night, he just nips down to the office and like design a new thing. So seeing that it didn't have to then, you know, be everything and take up all of your time was another big deal, because as a teacher you never get to do anything. You never get to see kids. Like to go out, if my child was getting, say, an award in assembly or something, I'd have to beg, borrow or steal to get that time off.
Of course, because you should be in your own assembly. Obviously, we never think of that. Yeah, I never think of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get that like one period off to do it, which means you're sat there clock watching. You're not enjoying the assembly. You're not busy being super proud of your child. You're like, they're running long. I've got to get back. How am I going to get out of here without everyone noticing that I've got up and run out? And all of that.
Just no anxiety at all.
No. And so knowing that I could design my life around my business and my business around my life, that I think was a big part of deciding to take the plunge and do this. And then early on in setting up the membership, we discovered Stu McLaren, who's a guy from Canada who I think was born in the UK, to be fair. So he's honorary British, we'll allow it.
We'll allow him.
And he's amazing. He's the OG of membership sites. So learning from him and being able to see the way that he set it up, the way he makes his members feel just so special all of the time, it's just been a masterclass in how we should run things. And it's meant we've been able to design the membership in the right way from the start. So yeah, if anyone's ever considered setting up a membership, you need Stu McLaren in your life and tribe. Because that's
the big thing about membership, isn't there? There's always that sort of big influx at the start, a big burst of it's keeping people as impressed as they were day one, I would imagine, is the trickiest thing. I mean, I don't have a membership at all, but the people I do know, they work incredibly hard on it to keep it fresh as it was the first day for the people who have been there 2 years, 3 years, whatever.
Ours helps in that because people are going through different stages in their education journey. So we have a membership for year 10s because they're going through slightly different stuff to year 11s. So membership for year 11 is more geared towards, okay, we're heading towards exams now. I mean, we started in September 2019. So we were like 7 months in before exams were then cancelled, and we've not done a proper year yet. Can't wait.
That's weird, isn't it? Yeah, of course.
But yeah, and then year 12 is all about personal statements and starting to think about uni and the step up to A-level and getting that right. Year 13, we're going to be doing our first year from September. So they're then going to get the...
Because you're new money. I'm still in old money, like 5th year, 6th form. I get well confused with these new years.
Yeah, 6th form. So year 12 and 13 is your 6th form stuff.
Thank you. I'm going to have like some sort of ready reckoner put on my wall. Some of my kids say, oh, they were year 9s. I'm like, and how old were they? Can we go into old money, please? But yeah. I'm so stuck. I've never been able to get my head, even though I've got kids at school now, I still can't get my head around these new years. And they've been going on for what? I mean, yonks, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I went through them when I was at school, but then it depends which school you go to. So there are some schools where it's still first year, second year, third year, and so on.
My kids could have gone to that one and I could have understood. Damn it.
Yeah, and then they've changed the grades on you. So they've gone from A star to G to 1 to 9s, and just parents' brains are like...
I just think, I mean, I'm not going to... We go to parents and we go, did he just change all this to confuse us? And so we don't know what's going on.
No, the government...
I mean, they're confusing the teachers equally as much.
Important things.
And also you've got like, some subjects have got different grades to other, like, oh, well, this is maths and English. So this is like A through G, A7, 4. And you're like, oh... I give it. Is he doing all right or is he not? Can we have it in plain English, please? But yeah, I think if you've never been in the industry or teaching industry, if that is a phrase, it's so difficult to keep up. But it must be so difficult to keep up if you're in it as well. I mean,
yeah. And I mean, 5 minutes at parents' evening once a year is not going to cut it for each of the subjects. There's so much you want to ask, but by the time they've done oh yes, little Johnny's doing all right, and yeah, and here's how they did in the last few tests, and you don't really understand those because new grading systems and stuff.
He got a 4F, and you're like, oh, that's good. Is it?
You get to questions, and you've got 3 parents standing behind you in the queue, glaring at you because it's already running late. It's really difficult to get all of that stuff done. It's why we do a fortnightly Q&A for members, so you can basically have all of those questions answered as they come up, because there are going to be things, and where else are you going to find that out if you can't?
Well, it's almost like you feel like you're bothering they've got so much on, and I mean, I've got one of my very best friends as a maths teacher, and I know he's frazzled. I know he's absolutely frazzled all the time. I know parents' evenings, like, is stuck on the end of his day.
Yeah,
he's got to be there till 9 o'clock at night. I know his family really well, so I'm like, if I'm taking it, and I'm sort of projecting onto every other teacher and thinking they've all got families at home, and I'm like, let me not take up your time. But then we really don't want to know how George is getting on. It's like, it's a weird old thing, parents' evening, I must admit. So, I tell you what, I'll be joining this membership. I'll tell you that for free. So I'm a big reader. I don't know about you. I'm a massive reader. I think if you stop reading, you stop learning. Is there a particular book that you've read that you think people should benefit from or could benefit from?
I think probably the one that I keep going back to is You're a Badass by Jen Sincero.
This is the 3rd week running.
Really?
I love Jen Sincero. Yeah, I love it. It's a great book.
It's amazing. She's totally relatable and wonderfully sweary, because when you're thinking about that kind of stuff, you get a little bit sweary in your brain, let's confess. And she makes it so obvious, the little things that you can do that will make a big difference. And I think that was probably the biggest one for me.
Have you read her next one, The Badass at Making Money? That's quite good as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And have you read any Sarah Knight? If you like hers, you'll like Sarah Knight's books as well. I always recommend Sarah Knight. She's got a great book based on, I talked about this exact same conversation last week, about, the Maria Kondo lady on Netflix who tells you to keep a pair of socks. She's got, it's like the life version of that, and I think it's the magic art of not giving a fuck. I think it's it's
I heard it. Yep.
So good. Like Jen Sincero, she's bang on. And then she's got one about getting your shit together. That's quite good as well. Yeah, there's 2 or 3 that are really, really, really good. So if you're into Jen Sincero, she's bang on that kind of
I like that, because I Marie Kondoed my entire wardrobe and it's lasted a whole year, which is unheard of for me, and I love it.
I suppose everyone's been locked inside. Can't use any of the clothes. It's all been tracky pants.
That is very true.
This is the first time I've worn a shirt for ages. Shirt on top, tracky pants on the bottom. Standard Zoom attire.
And that is basically what I'm doing right now. Yes.
It's become a style of its very own, though. The sort of it's a bit like the mullet, business on top, party at the bottom.
Yes. I mean, there are women everywhere who are dreading the thought of having to get back into skinny jeans, or rather to get out of the skinny jeans afterwards.
The one-legged hot fall over routine.
It's a whole thing. I thought I was going to be trapped forever. I really did.
So call the fire brigade to get you out of your skinny jeans. I think the fire brigade will be so busy when this lockdown's over.
Oh, dear.
Jaws of life on your jeans. See, I always look for really great phrases to put into the show notes, and there's one right there. Okay, do you have like I have a daily routine where I do certain things. Do you have anything you do every day that helps your well-being and helps your day go well?
Yeah, I think it's starting the day off right. So I've got in the habit, and it's genuinely made a really big difference. Got in the habit of waking up and going, today's going to be awesome, just in my head at the start of every day. And it seems to work. I can't explain why. It just does. It just presets you to look for the awesome in each day. I mean, we also do positives of the day every day around the dinner table, mostly because we have one of the twins is Captain Negative. And so we were trying to encourage him.
Strange superhero to take on, but yeah.
Honestly, if you gave him a present, he would find a reason that there was a problem with something, or we were wasting wrapping paper. It's a whole thing. So we've been working on it for years now, and so we started doing positives of the day. So we sit at the table and we have to go around and do a positive from the day, and just that act of coming up with, do you know what? Even if it's been a day, because we all have those days, there's still something you can come out with at the end that's a positive, that is a good thing to have come out of the day, even if it's just, you know what, that was really tough, but I made it through and it's all good and I'm here with you now. That's it. Being able to focus on the positives is, again, a really, really kind of game-changing thing to do. So,
which is very strange, because the last now 5 minutes of our conversation is identical to last week. It's just so weird that we had Debbie on last week, and her favorite book was Sincero, and then her one thing she did every day was a positive around the dinner table. You need to get in touch with her. You guys will get on like a house on fire.
Clearly.
But it's that kind of, because we automatically say to kids, oh, how was your day? And it's like, reel off a load of crap stuff that happened. Oh, I hate school. How was school boring? So, and like I said last week to Debbie, it's like you're turning it around, you're flipping it around, you're reframing the whole conversation, and you're saying, right, name one thing good that happened today? And but also you're getting up in the morning and saying, I'm gonna have an awesome day today. You're attracting awesomeness. You're following that sort of law of attraction, kind of giving out and getting back kind of thing. I don't know if you're a big follower of that kind of thing. I love all that. Nor Hibbert's book's good then, if you love all that sort of stuff.
Noted.
She wanted to be the Jen Sincero of the UK, I believe. It was her mission statement when she set out. So
I like that as a mission statement. That is awesome.
And she attracted it, and off she pops. She's brilliant. She's good. I'm hoping one day, she's my dream guest. I've kind of manifesting her as my dream podcast guest one day. But yeah, it's that same sort of thing. You're sort of attracting a good day. If you're going out looking for the good in the day, you're going to find it like that. So that's a great piece of advice. Okay. I'm a bit of a time travel obsessive. I love time travel and like all that kind of stuff. And in fact, I've got a course about how to change your past and time travel and all that sort of stuff. If you could borrow my time machine for a wee bit and you could pop back and see 20-year-old you, what would you say to them? Anything or nothing?
There aren't many things I'd go back and change. Okay. So there's no particular, don't do that kind of thing. But I think I'm going to steal a line from Wicked, if I may.
Of course.
Because defying gravity is an anthem. I'm through accepting limits because someone says they're so. I like that. Don't accept limits just because some arbitrary person in society has gone, no, you can't possibly do that and that and that and that. Screw that. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. So yeah, don't let other people decide your limits.
Oh, and again, it's the way you look at life. I like this already, having only spoken to you for a wee while. You've gone back and instilled something positive and not gone back and said, don't do this, don't do that. It's almost like, no, go and shine, go and like smash it and enjoy your life. And I like that. Again, it's a very positive chat. I always like a positive chat. I don't think I've had a negative podcast thus far. One may happen one day. Okay, my last two questions for you, because I've kept you ages, are my favourite two. I always like these two. What's the one question that you would have liked me to ask you that I haven't asked you so far?
See, I don't know, because again, that's looking back and going with, oh, I wish, which is tricky.
Goes against your beliefs.
Well, yeah. What would I like to see the business become? You know, what's my big become the Sincero of the UK kind of thing, I guess.
Hang on a second then. Let me just disappear. So then, Emily, I've got a question for you. What would you like to see your business become? What's your kind of, you know, like Noah Hibbert said, I want to become the Zen Sincero of the UK. What's yours?
Well, it's funny you should ask that. So the big goal is being in a position as a business to support parents from every single step of their child's education, from the beginning of, you know, they're this tiny little thing that all of a sudden is going off to school and you're not sure they're ready for it and you're not sure you're ready for it, all the way through to, hang on a minute, they're now an adult and they're going off to university and they're going to have to cook for themselves and be in charge of changing their own underwear regularly. And God. I need to know that they can cope with that. Like all of those things, to be able to have support as a parent so that you know you can coach your child effectively at home and make their life easier, make their journey easier, take the stress out of this high stakes education system that we've got here so that it's just easier for everyone, which I guess the big lofty goal with that is changing education from the outside in, because we've tried it the other way around and it didn't work. So
it's not doing that well. That's a very good answer to that very good question. Talking of very good questions, this is my favourite. When I put this into the podcast, I just really enjoy it. We had the lovely Debbie Waite on last week, who has a lot of similar opinions to you, and I think you should definitely get in touch with her. She asked the question. She gets to ask the next person on the podcast a question, and you get to ask the next person after you. Her question was, what would be the 3 items you would take onto a desert island with you? Dun, dun, dun.
See, I like that question. I'm going to go with, I know I'm calling them items, but still, my husband and my daughter. I wouldn't take the boys because they're now at the point where they're off having their own lives and they'd be annoyed, to be honest. So husband and daughter, and then I think a Kindle with a bajillion books on, so that I would always have something to read. See, it's cheating, and I don't care.
Is that a maths teacher number, bajillion? Is that a real number? Is it?
11 billion is my favourite number.
11 billion? Is bajillion more than 11 billion?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
Slightly less, just a smidge.
Again, is more.
Just a smidge.
So a Kindle with a bajillion books on, and your family items.
Yeah.
And that's your 3.
Yeah, that's my 3.
Oh, I was clubbing the 2 together as family. I was letting you have an extra one.
Oh, yeah. See, then I have to think of another one. And what I want is a magical, self-refilling bottle of Prosecco.
Oh, that old classic.
Yeah, why not?
We've all got one of them. You know, Debbie was
and a fridge.
A fridge, yeah, because that's going to be warm, isn't it? No, because the magical.
Maybe a refilling fridge full of bottles of Prosecco. There you go. That's rolled into one neatly.
It's magical. The pot, it'll keep it cool.
Yeah,
magical enough. It'll be like a tap, like a beer tap. We've got it. Yeah. We'll make it properly. Get your dad to make it.
Yeah, he probably could. He's got a 3D printer and he does like to mess around and invent new things.
There's his job after today. I need this magical Prosecco machine. So I made a complete cock up of it. I was like, I'm going to take a football and a lilo, and Debbie was all practical. Like, I'm going to take a Swiss Army knife and some lovely mozzie spray. And I'm like, I'm going to be bitten to death. I'm going to starve, but I'll be on my lilo, so I'll be all right.
I did wonder about sun cream, but we didn't specify like whether there were palm trees I could shade under.
Shade. I mean, I burn terribly. I think a hat would be good for me as well, really.
Yeah, I do too.
A little poorly, but yes. So, have you got a question for my next guest? I won't tell you who it is because that will ruin the surprise.
I do, and it's a tricky one.
Oh, good. Not a maths question, though.
No, it's not a maths question. I wouldn't do that to you. If you could only ever eat one flavour of ice cream for the rest of your life, which flavour would you choose?
Oh, my word, that's great. Have you got one you'd eat for the rest of your life? I've turned your question back on you.
Tricky.
The hunter becomes the hunted.
I'm going to go with salted caramel.
Oh, really? I'd probably just go vanilla, you know. I know, really boring, but it would accompany with a lot of things, wouldn't it? Yeah, you could like really put it with a few stuff and be able to put it in like smoothies and that. I'm guessing like milkshakes. I'm being very practical today.
Oh, yeah, didn't think of that. Oh,
but if you went from Neapolitan, not from those like stripy Neapolitan ones, you could cut bits off and have a different flavour each day.
That's true.
Always thinking.
They're not. No, I'm sticking with that. It was either going to be that or mint choc chip, which is also amazing. But then I don't always want crunchy bits.
No, you see, I'm a big Ben and Jerry's fan, but I wouldn't always want bits of chocolate hanging around in it and daft names. And you get bored of the pun after the rest of your life, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the cookie dough is amazing. It was the Dolce de Leche Haagen-Dazs that was always my favorite, and it was caramel with a caramel swirl within it, and that was my favorite. But they stopped doing it. They stopped it with salted caramel. But I've made my peace with that now. It's taken a couple of years, but I've made my peace, and I've decided that I'm going to give salted caramel a chance because actually it is good. It's just it wasn't quite as good.
It wasn't the original and the best. You're no longer at war with Haagen-Dazs. Okay. Called off hostilities.
Yeah, white flag. We're all good.
If people want to learn more about what you guys do and how to sort of get in touch, what would they do? Where's the best place to get hold of you?
Two choices. You can either go to parentguide2gcse.com or parentguide2post16.com, I guess, if you've got an older child, or you can find us on Facebook by searching either of those, Parent Guide to GCSE, Parent Guide to Post 16, and that's the best place to find us. We've got the Facebook page or the Facebook group, so if you want to get involved in the conversation and join that community of parents who are going through the same thing and have somewhere to vent when you need to, because let's face it,
or a bit of language on there is tasty.
But yeah, that's where you want to find us, either Facebook or head over to the website.
Brilliant. Honestly, thank you so much for coming on. We've had a great laugh, and like I always enjoy just meeting new people on this podcast, learning what they're doing, but especially you, because I love how positive you are and how you sort of look at life. I think that's great. But also, my son's about to rock up next year and start his GCSEs, so I now know where to come and find out all about the dark secrets of GCSE and not be a nagger and be a knowledge giver. Absolutely. Brilliant.
Definitely.
Thank you. And I just want to quickly say that you can still get my free ebook, Calm Mind, at my website, www.thewellbeingwhiz.com/calm mind. It's how to worry less in 7 days. Completely free. So get on that. That's brilliant. And yeah, thank you very much for coming. Cheers.